President-elect Trump has created a proposal for a gender bill, and I think it's a good one. Let's go ahead and look at it. We'll come back and talk about it.
The left wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so called gender affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
Wow. What a bill. What a bill. What a set of rules. I think his theme of consequences is my favorite part of that bill. That is my favorite part. I think him saying that he will get rid of any healthcare provider, medical provider, or hospital, and terminate them from the Medicaid or Medicare programs immediately should they participate in gender mutilation or gender changes or sex changes or anything like that, physical or chemical. I think that is a good start right there. He says he's going to go after Big Pharma. I'm not sure how that's going to go when they all fund his campaign and they fund the people that work for him now. Boy, I'm not sure how that's going to work. Not really sure on that. I think the fact that he said any parent, if a doctor manipulates them or does a sex change on a child, even though they didn't have parental consent, can sue the doctor. I think that any school, he said, or any educational institution that receives federal dollars that participates in this telling kids that they are the wrong gender or signing up for gender affirming care, signing them up without parental consent, They should all be fired. He said there will be severe consequences. Wonder what those are, but he did say that he would get rid of federal tax dollars. There you go. I do like the whole thing about rerouting Title IX back to what its original form was, written by a Democrat, Ted Kennedy, by the way, passed by Republican Richard Nixon, by the way, in 1972. So I think that going that far and saying that the federal government only sees two genders, male and female, he says assigned at birth, I say conceived after sex. But there you go. That's a good thing. Ending men and women's sports, that's another good thing. So a lot of good with this bill. Um, I think there needs to be even more consequences. Anyone who participated in these 4 years in this kind of stupid ass policy should be fired, fined $100,000, and given a 10-year sentence in prison. I know I'm a little bit extreme, but this is what consequences are. These are consequences that will make people think twice about doing this kind of shit again. Like if they do this shit, they're gonna lose their jobs. I think he should take away federal dollars from the bodies that handle any college sports, right? The NCAA is one. Um, Anyone in the NCAA that created these policies that allowed these kinds of things to happen, like with Riley Gaines and all that, they should all be fired, fined $100,000, and put in jail for 10 years and federal prison, by the way. And I do think that he should take away money from colleges, universities that allow men and women's sports, that allow men and women's dorms and bathrooms, locker rooms, and spaces. Any other spaces for women only should be either shut down or have federal funds taken away. And if you take away federal Pell Grants and federal student loans, guess what? That's about 90% of the students. Those schools are going bankrupt. So be careful what you do. I also think he should go after like gyms like the LVACs and the Planet Fitnesses and all those guys. If you guys are going to be allowing this, you are going to lose you are going to be prohibited from being on the on the stock market. You are going to be prohibited from doing stock buybacks. You are going to be prohibited, which should be prohibited anyway. But regardless, no tax cuts for you. If he lowers the corporate tax rate to 15%, which I don't agree with, absolutely not, then you have to pay an 80% tax rate if you allow this. I mean, there are some consequences that he could do that would be awesome. So I think this is a very good bill. It's a good start. We'll have to see how much of it he can get passed. He has a Republican House and a Republican Senate. They don't care about how thin the majority is like the Democrats do. They don't care about no parliamentarian. They'll fire that person like that, unlike the Democrats who make excuses. So I'm excited for this. We'll have to see what happens.